differences with the universities, my differences with CHED. So I was wondering baka more of private, but sabi nyo nga it's a mix.
Opo.
Anyway.
Salamat, Mr. President, Madam Chair. During the budget committee hearings, I flagged the issue of ghost scholars, as our office received numerous reports of HEIs allegedly listing ghost scholar applicants and submitting the same to CHED for the Tertiary Education Subsidy Scholarship Program. Nakatanggap po ba ang CHED ng ganitong mga ulat, Mr. President, Madam Chair?
I have had, my staff has worked with CHED on this, so I will read the response and may I just get a confirmation from CHED kung ito pa rin yan. According to CHED, they are not aware of any alleged ghost scholars. If the same refers to the so-called double scholarship grants to 338 students in Region 2 and 5, the issue has been looked into by the concerned regional office, and 123 students from the 27 HEIs have already returned the double payment, while the 215 students are in the process of settlement. Is that the same thing?
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Chair, but unfortunately, it's not the
It's
same
not.
issue. Yung issue po ng double scholarships,
Saang region?
so-called in some regions, ay isa rin sa mga COA observations. Pero ito pong issue ng ghost scholars ay iba pa po. Kaya wala po bang natanggap na ganung mga ulat ang CHED?
Well, other than what I have reported, Your Honor, they don't have any. So if Her Honor has something, please share it with them so they can investigate immediately.
Well, Madam Chair, Mr. President, CHED, even motu proprio, can already start investigating that. And I
But
was
there has to
hoping,
be a lead, Your Honor. If you
yes,
just say go
and,
scholarship, medyo walang ka ano-ano naman yun. At
Well,
saan nanggaling yun, di ba sabi ko nga, saang region,
yes.
para naman meron silang pag-uumpisahan. And what they know of that they thought might be related, sabi niyo po, they are not related. So,
Yes.
so we need more information to
Yes.
give them to work on it. Because I will also push them to work on it, Your Honor.
Salamat, Mr. President, Madam Chair. In fact, I was about to say that I was hoping na makikipagtulungan sila sa amin at lalo na, Madam Chair, considering na dito sa isyong ito ng ghost scholars, hindi naman CHED directly ang sinisisi ng mga nagrereklamo, kundi mas yung mga HEIs ang nirereklamo. And therefore, it is also in the interest of the Commission to ensure that those HEIs are compliant. So yes, Madam Chair, no problem about makipagtulungan, and I hope that that same attitude and behavior will be forthcoming from the CHED.
Yes, in fact, they already have a task force to investigate.
Mhm.
So if there is a representative from Her Honor's office or from whoever sent the complaint, they are very happy to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Chair, and also for mentioning the task force, because until this early morning, hindi pa naman ever nag-reach out sa amin ang task force. So, but hopefully, moving forward, we'll be able to address this issue as well as the earlier Unifast issue we talked about, Madam Chair. Yes, for the sake of the students and for the sake of the higher education institutions themselves. So both the HEIs and the scholars. I'm just surprised, Madam Chair, no, na hindi pa rin nakatanggap ng ganitong mga ulat ang CHED, considering na hindi lang pala itong representation nakarinig na nitong issue or nakatanggap ng reklamo tungkol sa issue ito, but Madam Chair earlier mentioned that she has also worked with CHED on this issue. And lastly, for the budget of CHED, Mr. President, Madam Chair, there are also stakeholders who approached us regarding HEIs misusing or mismanaging the funds, which led to students not receiving benefits such as tuition fees and other allowances. Aware po ba ang CHED dito? Meron po ba silang ongoing investigations sa usaping ito? At ilan ng mga HEIs ang na-penalize ng commission?
Sorry, pakiulit. Oh, anong ginawasan? Correct, kasi meron siya.
They keep more. They keep more. They keep more. Okay.
Or even if the student paid the tuition already, they don't reimburse.
Kasi may ganun, ano. Oo. Okay. So this is not new to you. And then iba-iba yan. Iba-iba yan.
Ano ba yan? Yung, ayan, pag-rasa, sa pag-jain.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor. The chairman says they are very familiar with these cases. There's quite a few, sadly. For the benefit of all, what happens is there's a total amount of 60,000 given, and then they're only supposed to keep a certain amount representing tuition and miscellaneous, and give the rest. So mga nangyayaring kaso is hindi tinatago lahat or konti lang ang ibibigay. May mga ganon. So they have investigated and they have already settled quite a few. In fact, I went further and said, kung sadya na yun, kung deliberate yan, hindi yan mistake, minority floor leader, estafa yun, di ba? That's withholding funds that are in your safekeeping, fiduciary safekeeping, di ba? So anyway, they are aware and they will be vigilant about this.
At may ongoing investigations pa po ba?
Oh, tuloy-tuloy. Yes.
Salamat, Madam Chair, Mr. President. At ilan ng mga HEIs ang na-penalize ng CHED?
Oh, pero pag gusto na, ha? Kung may kalukong. Oh, pero... Yeah, they can even give us the list of the schools that they're investigating. But again, I'm going to say to all of you what I have said to the chairman na kung meron ng ano yan na intent to commit fraud, that should already be a crime, Your Honor.
At dahil may kalikasan na yan ng isang krimen,
Crime.
opo, meron na po bang na-penalize na HEIs at ilan po?
But you have to check if you have to pursue legal action. It's one thing to
They have cases, Your Honor, where they've already addressed the situation na pinabalik yung pera. May mga ganun na sila. But I'm going further in telling them that they should review, they should check with their legal and see if there are criminal, if they should prosecute these schools kung may malis na yon, Your Honor.
So wala pa pong na-penalize, Madam Chair, Mr. President.
Magpahiram daw tayo ng mga abogado sa kanila. Kulang daw sila ng abogado, majority floor leader. So, tatlo lang ang lawyer nila, which is no. But can't you farm that out? You can farm that out, pagka, di ba?
So Madam, Mr. President, Madam Chair, is this representation to understand na sa issue ng misuse o mismanagement ng funds by HEIs na ang resulta ay hindi natatanggap ng estudyante ang benefits nila tulad ng tuition fees at iba pang allowances, zero pa ang HEIs na na-penalize ng CHED?
Hindi. They have resolved the issues. They have ordered the HEI to pay, but I'm the one, this representation is the one going further and telling CHED na you have to check because if there was malice, if it wasn't an honest mistake, you may have to pursue this by way of filing, prosecuting. So, sinasabi ko lang yan sa kanila.
And
And if so, they may have to hire additional lawyers. Kasi yung processing nyo ng claims, you don't need naman lawyers for that di ba? You just need baka accountant nga to see kung saan napunta yon and to make a determination. But if they'll go further and file cases, then of course they need lawyers for that.
I agree, Mr. President, and I agree also with Madam Chair yung sa pag-udyok nila sa CHED to take stronger action. But just for the record, so ibig pong sabihin, wala pa pong na-penalize.
When you say penalize, then you mean criminal action?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr.
Wala
President.
pa.
Zero pa. All right. Salamat, Mr.
Pero pinasettle na nila.
President.
Yun meron.
Salamat, Madam Chair, Mr. President.
Kasi ulit lang.
Dako na po ako dun sa European Maritime Safety Agency o EMSA, kaugnay ng CHED. Just several factual questions, Madam Chair, Mr. President. During its last audit, the European Maritime Safety Agency or EMSA flagged a number of so-called shortcomings and grievances vis-a-vis the education and training of our seafarers. The CHED, as provided under the Higher Education Act of 1994, RA 7722, formulates and implements academic policies and standards for maritime education, takes the lead on education and training, and shall ensure that all maritime schools or institutions or training centers maintain and or continuously upgrade the quality and standards of education and training. This includes the design and implementation of the following courses administered by the Commission on Higher Education: Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering and Bachelor of Science in Marine Transportation. Is this correct, Madam Sponsor?
Correct, no? That is correct, Your Honor.
Salamat po, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Now, among others, the EMSA found that the relevant authorities in the Philippines, which I presume includes the CHED, did not ensure that the maritime education and training in our country was structured in accordance with written programs and included the methods and media of delivery, procedures, and course materials necessary to achieve the prescribed standards of competence required by the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers, or the STCW Convention. The EMSA also stated that the CHED and the Maritime Industry Authority did not sufficiently ensure that all training and assessment activities carried out by maritime education and training or MET institutions and maritime higher education institutions were administered, conducted, monitored, evaluated, and supervised as required by the STCW Convention. So just a few baseline questions, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Ilan po bang maritime higher education institutions at accredited assessment centers ang meron tayo sa ngayon? At ilang graduates ang pinoproduce din natin taon-taon?
Schools lang sa accredited sa Marine. Training schools lang.
Oh, I'm
Accredited training schools.
okay. So the schools who are not accredited, the schools are not accredited.
The schools are lang schools. Yung training center.
Schools, okay, okay. Ang tanong niya is how many schools are accredited? So schools are 83.
There are 83 schools that are under the jurisdiction of CHED. The others, which are training centers, are under Marina. So wala hong kinalaman yan sa CHED.
All right. Salamat, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Na ano nga di ba nahati yung jurisdiction kahit sa maritime education and training sa pagitan nitong dalawang institusyon. At ilang graduates po ang pinoproduce yearly?
Altogether, 86? Ang 83? Di ba ang isa lang yun? That graduate? Hindi ko maintindihan yun. 83 schools, parang every year mag-graduate lang sila pagkada school. Hindi pa kasan. Hindi ko. 200. Roughly 50.
Oh, the Marina.
Do you have it?
Senior submission PSC based on the basically disciplines maritime this for 2020-2025 number here.
What's it? I can see it.
11,000 for 20 for AY 20.
Ang total population ng school? Graduate school.
Ito yung graduate.
11. O, so ano ba talaga?
Tama.
11. 11,000. Summer 8.
One academy.
One school ba yan? O lahat na yan? Sabi mo 100. Sabi mo 2,000. Ano ba?
Mas still consolidated.
Students kasi magpasok ng students.
Ang student is 100,000 students.
Ako ay
Would Your Honor like to ask another question while they are checking? Kasi it's a specific number, so they have to check.
Yes. All right, Madam Chair, Mr. President. Although nagugulat nga ako na hindi at the tips of their fingers itong datos nito. But all right, I can
Well,
just
there are
circle back
naman
to that
talagang
later.
hundreds and hundreds of school, Your Honor. So let's give them a few minutes to find it. I think
Certainly,
it's okay that
Mr.
it's not
President.
at their fingertips naman.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair. How many sabi nga po nila kanina, hiwalay pa yung training centers under
Yes,
Marina.
Yes.
Yun yung itatanong ko din sana. How many public maritime training centers does government maintain? So,
Wala.
babalikan po nila ako about that in a while. Pero, meron po bang pareho itong yung mga HEIs under CHED at yung mga training centers under Marina, meron ba silang simulators required ng STCW convention? Kung hindi, kung wala, tingin po ba ng CHED na
Actually,
dapat
lahat sila
mag-budget
meron,
ng
Your
pondo?
Honor.
Lahat sila.
Yes.
Lahat ay meron.
Isasara nila pag wala.
Right. That's it's good to hear, Mr. President, Madam Chair, pero medyo nakakagulat din dahil may mga anecdotal inputs na merong mga either maritime, HEIs, o training centers, lalo na po yung wala sa coastal areas, nasa landlocked areas na walang simulators. But it's good kung lahat pala, ayon sa CHED, ay mayroon. Kasi na-anticipate na rin ni Madam Chair yung susunod kong tanong na anong mangyayari doon sa maritime training centers na hindi magko-comply with
And they have
STCW
closed.
requirements.
They have
They have
closed in the
closed.
past.
Mm.
And siguro nga kaya nag-comply na talaga yung iba. They have actually closed 15
15.
schools,
Oh.
programs, maritime programs.
Ito po ay yung 15 po na isinara ay maritime HEIs o mga training centers or pareho?
Wala nga po silang jurisdiction sa training centers.
Oh, that's right.
No? So,
Doon po sa maritime HEIs.
sa maritime programs.
Maritime programs. 15 ang naisara. Salamat, Mr. President. Madam Chair. So kapag sinara nila nung isinara nila yung 15 maritime programs na iyon, nagpatuloy pa ba yung HEIs, yung maritime HEIs? Kasi para ma-distinguish lamang nitong representation, what's the difference between closing a maritime HEI and closing a maritime program?
Ang tanong nga kanya is meron bang, tanong ko, di ba? May school ba na may iba pang program? Ano yung isang, anong naiiwan na program?
Sa kasi release items programs post administration.
Iba.
There are schools, Your Honor, that have other programs, for
Mhm.
example, customs administration. So hindi affected yon. So it's not the whole school that will close. It's just the program that will be closed. So tuloy-tuloy naman yung school na yon for their other programs.
Understood, Mr. President, Madam Chair. So, moving forward, paano po ini-intend ng CHED na i-address yung key findings ng audit report, at least as far as they relate to maritime education and training? Ilan ba yung mga programa at pati mga specialized na programa na kailangang i-monitor at i-evaluate?
Your Honor, CHED intends to do the following. Attend to the development and issuance of revised policy standards and guidelines. This is otherwise the curriculum for implementation of maritime HEI starting this school year, 2022 to 2023. Revise the PSG focuses on outcomes-based education and hence concerns like assessment, examination, and assessments of competence were already addressed. They will also, as to the non-compliance of maritime HEIs, CHED has reduced the number of maritime HEIs from 128 to 83. This is over the span of parang the lifetime of my daughter, 1994 to 2022. CHED has closed an additional 15. Ito yung sinasabi ko, no, maritime programs as of 2022. CHED has imposed a 5-year moratorium on the opening of new maritime programs, and it's attending to the development of standardized course packages. Upon the instructions of the President, CHED will work with DOTR, DOLE, and DMW to implement more reforms to comply with all of the EMSA observations.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Interesting yung isang gagawin nila moving forward to impose a 5-year moratorium. Even if briefly, Mr. President, Madam Chair, bakit a 5-year moratorium? At bakit 5 years? Hindi mas maikli, hindi mas matagal?
So wala nang bago magpupuntas, ma-evaluate lahat ng existing para kasi yung iba pag sinabi ng very up ngayon wala pwede mag-apply pero we can check all the 83
Gives you time, no? Because the process is similar. We go back. Oh, the 5 years, Your Honor, will give CHED enough time to really evaluate the existing schools without having to deal with the opening of new ones. Because most likely, Your Honors, those will be the same schools, maybe somehow guised as a different entity or different owners that will reapply. So the 5 years gives them time to work with the existing schools, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Chair. At lastly, sa tanong na ito, dun sa binanggit ni Madam Chair na standardized course packages, ito ba yung tutugon dun sa findings sa audit report na Marina and CHED had not yet completed the design of the programs of study for the BSMT and BSMARE
Yes.
programs? Yes.
That
that's
will
it.
exactly address that.
All right. Salamat, Madam Chair. And I presume pati yung the curriculum mapping of the BSMARE program did not include knowledge, understanding, and proficiency items for 2 out of the 14 competencies specified by the STCW convention. So, tumbok din ito doon. Madam
Yes, Your
Chair.
Honor.
All right. Salamat po, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Pwede po bang malaman saan sa budget items ng CHED nakapaloob ang trabaho o mandate ng commission sa STCW convention? Magkano ang ginagastos natin para dito? At bakit hindi pa rin natutugunan ng issue at problema sa qualifications and standards required by the EMSA? Over 16 years na daw nila tayong ino-audit at binababalaan tungkol sa mga audit findings.
What
na
was
ito.
that question related to yung 16 years
budget?
na tayo? No, I know. The first
Yes.
one was saan niya nakapaloob, and the
Yes.
answer is under operations. And then the follow-up to that was
Magkano ginagastos natin dyan sa budget items na iyon? At bakit hindi pa rin natugunan 16
Okay, so
years since we started receiving those audit
so
reports?
pagkano ginagastos at bakit hindi nga natugunan? Bakit nga ba hindi natugunan yan?
16 na yung audits and systems.
Yeah, which one?
And sama ko si
So the line item is development of standards of excellence for higher education programs and institutions. And the amount for the 2023 committee report has been increased, no, from last year. It's now 95.78 million.
Right.
for that.
Yeah, but that's not just for maritime, no, but it falls under that. As to bakit hindi natin natugunan, since considering that 2006 pa nagbibigay ng observations.
Noong 2006, naging 100 yung
Ayan, tama nga.
53 na lang yun.
Oo.
Natutugunan naman.
Nat-
Kailangan
Pero ano yun, may pero na-break yan. O dati pa yung break, hindi lang na-break.
Okay. Actually, Your Honor, the number of compliance issued the number of observations were 126.
Mm-mm.
And there has been a lot of changes made, and these compliances so the number of observations 126, and the compliances with the compliances, this has now been reduced to 23. So in fairness naman, close to 100 observations have already been addressed. But continuing yan, kaya may bagong news tayo na meron pa ring observations. But it is not new, and these are ongoing changes that they are making.
Salamat, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Well, indeed, quantitatively significant, no, na parang 80% ng
Yeah.
mga observations na tugunan na, may natitirang halos 200.
Yes, Your Honor.
But qualitatively, I'm just guessing kasi hindi ko ma-identify sa ngayon yung 23. Baka ito ay napaka-importante, kaya umabot tayo sa lumabas sa balita na napipintong posibleng hanggang mag-expire na lang yung certificates of competencies ng ating mga seafarers, ng ating mga marino, at kung hindi pa ma-resolve yung kabuuan ng audit report, ay hindi na sila ma-issuehan ng COC, hindi na sila makasampa muli. So it's good to know the progress made so far, pero really the hopes of all the seafarers, mga pamilya nila, and the country are on probably resolving these remaining 23 observations. So for my last question for this early morning, Mr. President, Madam Chair, ano po yung current timeline sa pagresolba nitong lahat ng mga issue moving forward para we do better or we do well already during the next audit? Yun na po ba yung 5-year moratorium? Yun na rin po ba yung timeline natin? At kailan po ba yung next audit? Will it fall within the next 5 years? Kung ito nga yung timeline.
Yeah.
Pwedeng gumawa sa sarili naming timeline.
Oo. Well, Ched, Your Honor, will have to be guided by the timeline and any other steps moving forward to address this problem by this team that the President instructed them to put together. So again, I'll repeat, it is Ched, DOTR, DOLE, and DMW. So they can report to us in due time on what their plans are and what the timeline is. And to also add, Your Honor, those observations when I was asking na, so every year nag-i-improve ba, every time they come nag-i-improve. Actually, every time a team of examiners come, they have different observations po. So it's like hindi naman. It's like a moving target.
Mm.
Exactly. Thank you. Buhay pa yung susunod na magtatanong. Malawak pa yung kanyang vocabulary.
Well, that's, Mr. President, Madam Chair, an unfortunate situation. Alam ko may iba't ibang interpretasyon na pwede nating maibigay sa ganung sitwasyon. But the fact of the matter is simply that habang nandun pa rin tayo sa laot ng may mga unresolved observations, posibleng maging target tayo, speaking of moving targets, ng additional or new observations. Kaya we really need to bring this ship into port sa pamamagitan niyang team ng CHED, DOTR, DOLE, DMW para may safe berth na siya, masiguro na yung of the 500,000 Filipino seafarers na sumasampa sa mga EU flagships ay meron na silang kasiguruhan sa pagtatrabaho. So yung team po, so I understand na itatakda pa nila yung timeline nila. They may not go as far as the 5-year moratorium na inimpose ng CHED in order to evaluate all the maritime HEIs and programs. Pero kailan po ba yung susunod na audit at aabot po ba yung findings and recommendations at action on recommendations ng team?
Pero kailan, ano ba yan? Every 2 years? Every 3 years? What do you mean by tapos na?
Observations and submit tayo ng siguro.
Oh.
Wala pang decision.
Oo nga, pero may, okay.
Decision lang, weekly and still.
Okay. So, after the observations were made, their responses to the observations were submitted, and they expect the, ano tawag doon? The audit? Ano ba tawag doon? If the responses were adequate, then they will be hopefully we will be hopefully getting a recertification next year. So anything we do is to just further enhance and improve the systems. Kasi medyo tapos na yung audit, parang ganon.
I see, Mr. President, Madam Chair. Then, ka nga sa literature na a consummation devoutly to be wished. So, I suppose the whole Senate will also join yung ating mga marino in the hope and the prayer na yung recertification na iyon ay matanggap na nga sa susunod na taon. So, these are all my questions for this early morning. Madam Chair, to Ched and Mr. President, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minority Leader Risa Hontiveros.
Thank you very much, Senator
Guys, kuha
Risa.
kayo, kuha kayo. Ubusin nyo yung cookies ni, ni Majo.
Majority Leader. Will this be the last but not the least?
Yes, Mr. President. Last but not the least is the manifestation of the distinguished gentleman from the city of Taguig and Pateros, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. I move that he be recognized.
Teka, sandali. Ang alam ko po, gusto ni Senator Alan to be last. Pumuporma ho sa podium si Senator Robin. So, sino ba ho talaga sa inyo?
Hinahanap po daw ako, Robin.
Magandang madaling araw po sa ating ginoong tagapangulo at sa ating magandang chairwoman. Binibigay ko na po ang pulpito sa ating pong Senator Alan Peter Cayetano.
Thank you to my good friend and brother. Actually, Mr. President, I will make a manifestation and one quick question. The manifestation is in behalf of many of our fellow senators, and this will be a very frank manifestation, very sincere. And alam ko madaling araw na, but it is meant with love sa ating Ched family, no? So, sabi sa Biblia kung anong ating itatanim, yan talagang ating aanihin. And alam natin na sa Pilipinas, hindi talaga pare-parehong opportunity. Depende talaga kung saan ka pinanganak, sa pamilyang medyo may kaya o hindi. Many of our brothers and sisters dyan sa Ched are self-made, no? Na they worked hard to get where they are at hindi minana lang yan, no? But a lot of people work so hard but survival lang talaga ang inaabot, no? And when I was young, I remember ang ambisyon ng tao, magkakotse, magkabahay, magkatrabaho lang na maganda. When the Ched person was chairman, Popoy was appointed, ang slogan ng ating mahal na Pangulo noon is a safe and comfortable life. Ganun lang kasimple. And we all know that education was and is the great equalizer. No, meaning sa lahat ng sinubukan ng gobyerno natin since this government, our government system was founded, talagang ang pag-asa ng Pilipino pag nakatapos. So the manifestation is simple, no? Nakailan years na si chairperson. There's been ups and downs. There's been a love-hate relationship, depende sa issue. There has been misunderstanding with some senators, and some senators even asked na, should we give Ched a 1 peso budget? No? But the consensus was, tatamaan lang yung sektor, ang mga estudyante, ang mga, yung sa news ba, hindi maiintindihan. So, napagkaisahan na we will approach it in the opposite spirit, meaning with love, and challenge Ched na now that you have a new mandate, the next 6 years, You have the experience the last few years. You have the position, the power, the next 6 years. When I first became a congressman in 1998, ang dami-daming batas, ang dami-daming proposal na breakthrough sa education. At alam naman natin, nag-culminate yan nung Unifast, di ba? Dati, isang branch lang yung katulad ng ibang mga malalaking university natin. Ngayon, dumami na. Yung dati, walang pondo for this and that. Napakaraming breakthrough. So to be very honest and frank, Madam Chair, we can go through the pages of the budget. We agree with you. The sector should have a larger budget, but we do expect a breakthrough in the next few years. And we want to challenge Ched, next to Unifast, ano yung agency-sponsored legislation nyo na earth-shaking na makakatulong talaga sa ating mga estudyante na hindi lang makapasok, hindi lang makatapos, hindi lang to get the best opportunities, but also to have a brighter future. Hindi nyo cargo yung buong future ng ating mga kabataan, but it's really a avenue that is open to all and an avenue that can be taken. So yun yung manifestation, and I hope in the next few budgets, no, we will take care of this nitty-gritty na mga tinatanong, mga problema sa red tape, sa delivery, etc. But we will be talking about how we can compete with the best universities in Asia and how our students can get jobs, hopefully not only abroad but here. So as for the question, may I ask the sponsor and the Senate President, may I have the honor of asking the last question of this budget hearing, this process for passing the budget for 2023?
That honor for me is yours unless any of the good gentlemen and ladies here will take it away from you.
Okay, so if that honor is mine, that was the last question. Thank you very much.
Yes. It's over. Finally.
It's ano for him.
Not every day, Mr. President, na naiisahan ng ate.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Before we make the motion, I'd just like to put on record that at 1 a.m. in the morning, we had 16 senators present.
physically present.
Physically present
Yes.
on the floor or the lounge. But I would like to congratulate and thank all of you for the hard work that you've shown and dedication in passing this first budget of this new administration. So, Majority Leader, what is the favored motion at 1:41 in the morning?
Yes, Mr. President, this is historical, especially, not just for everyone, especially, but for you and me, Mr. President. Let me do the honor of moving for the budget of CHED be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, the budget of the Commission on Higher Education, last but not the least, is deemed submitted. Congratulations. 1 minute suspension or tuloy na?
Let's continue,
Let's
Mr. President.
continue. Okay.
At 1:41 a.m., Mr. President, are
Are there any administrative matters?
are there any administrative matters? This one? No more.
So we'll suspend the budget?
Mr. President, I move that we suspend.
No. We'll close the period of interpellation, Your Honor. Majority Leader. Let's close the period of interpellation of the budget, Majority Leader. Yes.
Mr. President, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate on House Bill number 4488 under Committee Report number 10, or an act appropriating funds for the operation of the government of the Republic of the Philippines from January 1 to December 31, 2023. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, the period of interpellations on the General Appropriations Act for 2023 is hereby closed.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the consideration of House Bill number 4488. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no